Hi, I'm Jessica Bolton, and this is Daily Mirror's Jess Saying Live. We're joined today by one of the world's most celebrated photographers. He's shot the likes of Pal Kate Moss, Adele, Spice Girls, David Bowie, and Her Majesty the Queen herself. And after doing music videos for the likes of Cheryl Cole and Rita Ora, he's now fronting the Great British Photography Challenge on BBC. So please, of course, it is the one and only Rankin.
Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you.
And I'm ashamed to show you any of my photos. Let me put that that way. Such a fan.
No, I'm always happy to see other people's photos. Please feel free to share.
Well, the main thing we wanted to talk to you about today is you've got this brand new exhibition, which is for a fantastic cause. It's just opened in London. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we've just opened a show called Performance at the Fujifilm House of Photography on Long Acre in Covent Garden, and it's essentially a portrait of the West End. It's not just the performers on the West End, it's all of the behind the scenes staff as well, because we wanted it to be a return of live theatre and a portrait of that. So the show is, I think I've photographed 160 people now, and there's going to be a book, which I think is about 180 pages as well. And it really is a portrait of the West End right now in this moment as it comes back to life after COVID.
It's such an important thing, isn't it? Because we've all missed it for the last nearly 2 years. Was it quite emotional doing all these portraits?
Yeah, it was. It was emotional, but it was also really positive. Normally, doing lots of actors and people in the creative industries, there's egos. And one of the most incredible things about this project has been no egos. Everybody's come to it with humility. Everybody's just excited to be in front of other people. And I wanted to call it performance because everybody in the creative industries has to perform in some sort of way. In fact, you know, being behind the camera doesn't mean that I don't have to perform. I have to get the best out of people. I have to perform as well. So I felt a lot of affinity with the theatre community and the live performance community when they couldn't come back to work, because obviously I was allowed to come back to work. So I wanted to do something to celebrate the resilience and what they've all gone through, but also the fact we're back and how much we've missed it and how exciting it is to be able to be reinvigorated by theatre, because that's what live performance does for us all. It reinvigorates us, it gives us inspiration, it makes our lives more interesting, and it has been so positive because of that. Of course, there's been a few tears, there's been a few kind of I can't believe we're back, but essentially it's just positivity.
Yeah, and it is fantastic because we've kind of sort of forgotten over this time about how different it is to go and see something live and to have that experience. And these people whose livelihoods was on hold for so long because they can't possibly do it any other way. So I mean, capturing these images, you just get such a sense of the excitement around it. You talked there about getting people to feel at ease. And you're an expert at this, and your photos talk for yourselves about how at ease you get your people to feel. How do you do that? What's your trick?
Well, there's so many tricks. I think with anybody you're photographing, most people don't really enjoy being photographed by a professional photographer because they feel like they're being scrutinized. And I think even with the camera phone, people still feel that the professional environment where you've got a camera pointing at you, you're the person in front of it. I think most people, even celebrities, feel a little bit like they're under the microscope. So what I tend to do is just talk a lot and chat to people. But there are lots and lots of tricks to be able to get people to feel comfortable. But the most important thing here that we've done is that we've allowed all of the subjects to choose the photograph that we've used in the show and the book, and that ability to kind of be don't know, in collaboration with me, as opposed to me just, taking their picture and owning the image. That collaboration and that ability to be in the driving seat of what they can do has allowed, especially the non-performers, it's allowed them to feel comfortable and confident that if they do something they don't like, I won't use it.
So if like the people, because that the last gentleman we saw there, he was front of house, and that's a fantastic shot. That one, I love it.
I would say that he's front of house that wants to be on stage, though.
I think he deserves to be on stage.
He definitely wants to be on stage. There's no question. But it's been brilliant because everybody's been very different, and of course there are people that are very unconfident about being photographed. But I've done so many photographs of what I call, people, but the industry calls real people. And I know that it can be even more daunting for them to be in front of my camera. And I've learned just to really try and make them feel confident that we're in this together. It's not, I'm their ally. I'm not trying to steal anything from them. And I think that that's the best piece of advice that I can give any photographer that's trying to do a project like this, is try and make people feel that we're on a journey together.
Yeah, so it's not you and them. It's
us. It's us. Yeah.
Yeah. And was there any cases in any of these where somebody's gone, oh, I really want that one, and you're like, really? Would you not prefer this one?
Yes, I mean it would be incredible if every single picture was my favorite. But there's only been one or two where I've had the kind of conversation of like, are you sure? I'm a professional. I think you should maybe listen to me. And of course, I've won a couple of them and I've lost one or two, and that's just normal. But you know what? If I didn't stick to the kind of deal that I was doing with them, it wouldn't work as well. And I found that when you collaborate with people, they are prepared to go that little bit further for you and do maybe something a bit more interesting.
I love this one. It's David Harwood. I mean, you just get the real sense of him there. That's that sort of like the sort of cheeky smile, slightly devious look. And how long does it take you in a shoot situation to know you've got the shot that you're happy with?
That's an interesting question. I think maybe because I've been doing it for so long now, I'm very confident in doing only 15, 20 frames of someone. Wow. And the thing with this project is we shot 160 people in 5 shoot days. So we were averaging at least 30 a day. And I think that, that's probably 10 minutes per person, 15 maximum, especially with them looking at the pictures and choosing them. So for me, the speed and the energy that you bring to it is what makes it really exciting. And what it means is it cuts the crap. It means that I'm immediately going for the image. I'm immediately giving them direction. I'm immediately asking them to give me something. I'm actually saying to them, perform to the camera, don't perform to me, perform through the lens, look at the audience that are going to be looking at these pictures. And of course, the performers get it straight away. I'm actually shooting on a little bit of a wide angle lens. So it means that, they're really peering in the way that I am now. Yeah. And that gives you a connection. And that's kind of, it's been about performance. So it's about getting back to that performance that was what I wanted the project to be about.
Really making it feel like somebody's watching them closely and you're watching it like on stage.
Exactly. Almost bringing theatre or the kind of act of performance to the lens. So we're really kind of making them, when you go and see the show, you'll see a lot of the shots, you really connect. And one of the best things that I heard from people talking about the shots when we were getting to the end of the project and the photos were up in the gallery and we were shooting in the House of Photography, a lot of the people were going, oh, I know so many of these people and you've really captured who they are. How did you do that? And I said, well, I just let them be who they are. I don't try and make them somebody else.
Yes, because then you don't get that sort of the sort of very stiff photos that
exactly.
And you get that sort of great shot. I love the Only Fools and Horses one.
Exactly. And so one of the things I'll do is say, scream at the camera. And people go, what? And I'll say, just scream at the camera or laugh at the camera. And it's one of those things that people feel so funny doing it that they immediately crack up afterwards. So I get the shot normally just after that where they're cracking up.
I see. Right. Okay. So you don't really want them screaming at all.
No.
You just want the.
I just want to break the barrier between the camera and them.
I love that. That makes so much sense as well.
It'll work at weddings as well if you want to steal it.
Yeah, work at weddings.
Just go around the whole wedding saying "scream at the camera" and you'll get great pictures.
You might catch the groom actually does want to scream if he's realised he's made a mistake.
Maybe the bride. Maybe the bride.
Maybe the bride. Exactly.
Maybe the mother-in-law.
No, just the important side of this exhibition, or the nice side of this as well, is that you're raising funds for the Theatre Artists Fund.
Yeah.
From the book and from donations of going to see the exhibition. It's free to see, but if you want to donate, it does go to these great causes. So it's Theatre Artist Funds, which helps like struggling artists, and also a selection of youth homeless charities, isn't it?
Yeah, they were chosen by Sadiq Khan because the GLA and the mayor's office helped us get the project up and running and supported it. So that's our kind of way of giving back to him and the GLA and the mayor's office team, because we want to also, the West End isn't just the theatre. What the West End is, what the theatre is, the West End is the beating heart that brings all of the people, it's like a flame to the moth, the moths, it brings people into the West End. But there are lots and lots of people that come to the West End and find it really difficult. So Centrepoint's one of the charities we're helping. And I think that, we all love that West End experience, but if it wasn't for the theatres, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be such a quiet centre. There would be nothing of the hustle.
Exactly, and it's interesting that a few weeks ago when it hadn't opened up yet properly, the West End was pretty quiet. And what's been interesting, because we've been going in to the House of Photography in Long Acre to shoot there. They've got a brilliant studio downstairs. We've actually been shooting in the West End, and we've watched it get busier and busier and busier over the last 6 weeks. The theatres have opened and the restaurants are now busy again. So we just needed it. We needed London to come back to life. And one of the part of this show is actually Let's Do London. It's about getting London back up and running it's about getting London back up and running as the cultural capital of the world, because we really are the cultural capital of the world.
We are. There's lots of great culture elsewhere in the UK. Obviously, we all know that.
Absolutely. But, Britain is the cultural capital of the world itself, but London is the centre of it without question.
The centre of it, especially with the West End and everything we're talking about there. And it's so fantastic, because all these people who, would have been really, really struggling. I mean, I know actors and things who are desperate because they haven't been able to work for so long. But I saw you say in one thing, you actually thought that you might have sort of time when you weren't doing a lot of photography during the lockdowns and everything, but you found out that you were actually doing a lot more for yourself as well during that time. You haven't stopped.
No, I've been very privileged in the sense that I've been allowed to work for a lot of the pandemic, but also I did my own personal projects, which I've been wanting to do for ages. Like I'd wanted to photograph flowers for a long, long time, and I've done a big project on flowers, which is really, it actually kind of kept me sane. Really, I didn't realise how much I would miss photography when I initially went into lockdown for the first 3 months. And within 2 weeks, I was photographing flowers, and it was the one thing that kept me kind of stable. I was kind of losing it at points, like I think everybody was, but it kept me stable. But it also made me realize how much I love what I do. I love photography so much. So it reignited my passion for what I do in my life.
I was going to ask, actually, is it one of those cases of, when you go away on holiday with your wife and things, is it one of those cases where like, oh, I don't want to take the holiday photos? It's like I'm relaxed, or is it so in your blood that you still do, or is it just like, please don't put that pressure on me?
No, I think you're spot on. It's like a busman's holiday. I absolutely hate taking my camera on holiday with me, because it is the last, you also have to realize that I've been photographing pretty much every single day for the last 30 years. So whenever I do take a holiday, which is very rare for me to take a holiday, I do. And also my wife is just like, really, you're gonna do this, and she loves me photographing her, but it's the one time that we get to relax and not talk about photography. So because obviously it's the photography is totally the love of my life. I'm so passionate about it. I love doing the TV show. I love everything about photography, but she does get a bit bored of me banging on about it.
Does she get a little bit bored of you being like, right, can you pose for this, or can you pose for that, or is she like, okay, I've got the most fantastic photos because my husband's Rankin?
I think 6 of one, half dozen the other. Like she's got a tea company called Thule Tea, which is just launching. So I've been doing a lot of photographs for that. So she's excited that I can just pick up a camera and take pictures for the website, or anything to do with the tea company. And she used to be a model, so she does like having a photograph taken, and we've done books together, etc. But there is a kind of especially at the weekend, there's a kind of like, really, you're going to talk about photography again? I think a lot of photographers are quite self-obsessed and quite egotistical, me included. And I've learned to kind of leave that at home now. Leave that. That was a slip of the tongue. And leave that at work. Leave that at work now. But I'm really always happy to help her, because the tea company, I'm actually wearing the T-shirt from the tea company.
Love it. That's what you call a good husband. That is. And I mean, you've done so many iconic shots and some of the biggest names in the world there, but also they've always got that sort of interesting, quirky element to them, and you get these great names to do something really unusual. I guess that comes to that sort of camaraderie that you sort of talk about building up. But I mean, this one here of Boy George that we had there with the teacups, what sort of inspires something like that? Where does that come from?
Oh, well, that one was for a charity. I think it was Mencap at the time. I think it was basically a tea time, a kind of to raise funds for a charity, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had to, but that kind of like coming up with the
concept. But yeah, doing the ideas, I maybe just answer that for you. Yeah. For me, I can't really just take boring pictures. It's just not in my DNA. So I'm always looking for something that's going to make you look beyond, the person, like I'm looking for something that draws you into the picture. This was, for example, was for the BAFTAs, and I did it remotely, over a phone. And it was so exciting because Stephen's son was shooting it, and he said, "Shall I get Dad to jump up and down on the what they called
trampoline?"
Trampoline. So I'll do it again. So should I get Dad to jump up and down on a trampoline? I was like, absolutely. So I was actually getting Stephen's son over the phone to get his dad to jump up and down, and he was like, "I think I've got one. I think I've got a good one." And then he shows it to me, and I said, "You've done better than me. That's better than my photo."
You say, no, that's no good. That's no good. Don't show that one.
Yeah, but no. But that was that was actually done in lockdown. So it was one of those projects where a lot of photographers started to do remote shooting, and Stephen's son said, "I've got an idea. Should I get Dad to jump up and down on the trampoline?" I was like, "Yeah, that's brilliant." And then, of course, you get one of the best shots ever taken of Stephen.
I know it is a great shot
by his son. That I'm taking credit for.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking credit for.
That whole sort of like taking photo shoots remotely. It's just amazing how
it's amazing. And what's lovely about it for me is that people go and look at my work, and then they try and they almost come to the shoot. In fact, a lot of people come to the shoots with me now with this idea of like, I'm going to do a Rankin shot. So they come with ideas. So it's kind of a gift for me now, because it means that people really do try to embrace this idea of the image being a little quirky or a bit unusual.
And
yeah, that was a Mother's Day shoot I did. So I had this idea to get lots of celebrities and their mums, because I lost my mum in 2008, and so but I used to love celebrating Mother's Day. So I had this idea to get celebrities and their mums and to get them to come in. And of course, a picture like this is just a dream, because I would want to photograph him like that on my own, but he can't say no to his mum.
Can't say no to his mum, who's going to make him do that. He's come for a nice photo and his mum is pulling his ears out. I love it. It just shows, but it just tells you so much about their relationship and everything in that one image. You just get so much of it. And I mean, I know you've talked before about David Bowie. I mean, what a great, face he must have been to photograph. What was he like to work with?
That's such a good question, because he's so different from what I should say. He was so different from what you'd expect him to be. I thought he was going to be super cool and very kind of cold and very distant. And that's, if you look at other pictures of him, he's always just so perfect. And of course, my images are always trying to like break the barrier a little bit. So when I met him, I was like, wow, this guy is like the most enthusiastic person I think I've ever met. He's like that kid at school who just wants to do everything and is really excited. And it was so unusual to sort of see him in that light and that enthusiasm and that excitement about the process. And with this picture, I just really was a bit obsessed by him, really kind of growling at the camera. And he just did it. And I don't think he particularly liked that picture, but he always let me use it, which I always thought was really amazing.
Because he knew that you knew what was a good picture, even if it
hopefully. I wasn't in any of the exhibitions about him, so I don't think he liked it that much. But never mind.
Maybe he was a little bit more about his appearance than we thought.
Well, he always looked great and really kind of cool in his pictures, but for me, I wanted to get that person that I met. I didn't want to just get what everybody else got. And I think that's maybe I just approach all the shoots with that as a kind of motto, is like, get something different, make something that you haven't seen before. And that's what I'm always pushing for.
Because it's getting that different image. Because like you say, I would have thought he was really aloof as well, just from the pictures that you see of him all that time. So you saying that about how he was is, and that comes across in your picture, whereas it doesn't in others. And I know there's an Arnie one that's one of my favorites with the cigar, which I love there. Which is a great shot.
He just kept making mother-in-law jokes, which I thought was so strange. He just kept making jokes about his mother-in-law, and I just kept thinking. And he had a bodyguard who was very similar in stature, and he was a big guy, and the bodyguard just found all of these mother-in-law jokes really funny, and I felt almost that Arnie wants to be a comedian, and he's always trying. So I just laughed away. But it was so lovely of him to let me do this picture, because I was actually shooting him for a commercial reason, and I said, I can't meet you and not photograph a portrait of you. And he was like, no problem, and then told me another mother-in-law joke. So I quite enjoyed meeting him.
Yeah, I bet. Has there been anyone that you were sort of, put it in the nicest way, would never ever want to photograph again? Or I know you probably can't say names, but
no. And do you know what? What I've realised about my job is it's a bit like one of those jobs that you just don't kiss and tell. It's one you don't. It's really important that people realise that actually not everybody wakes up in a good mood, and not everybody has a good experience on the day. And what I've really learned is that, I can't expect people to always be at their best. So I just try and get the best out of that time that I've got with them. But it is a very limited time. And I don't think me telling kind of the negative stories is going to really tell you anything. And it's just a little bit like what goes on in the shoot should stay in the shoot, but you know, especially the negative things. But most of the time, I have to say that all of the really famous, very, very famous people that I've photographed are some of the most charming that I've ever met. Like Ewan McGregor is so charming and so clever and so funny, and Robert Downey Jr. is, and you know, they're two of my favorites to photograph. And I find that most of them are brilliant. So I tend to keep my kind of criticism of them light. And everybody would love a nice juicy story about, you know, how bad they were. But most of them are incredible. In fact, most shoots are incredibly professional.
Yeah, is and obviously, has there been somebody that you really love working with? I know you do Kate a lot, Moss. You know, obviously you've got that connection with her there, and
definitely Heidi Klum. Definitely Heidi Klum. Yeah,
Heidi.
I love shooting with Heidi. I think that she is. There's a few people who are exactly the same on TV as they are in real life, and Heidi is exactly the same, as funny, as quirky. If anything, she's a bit cleverer. You know, she's so smart and so in tune with what's going on in the room that she sometimes plays a little bit stupid to get the best out of people, but it's very, very smart. But her energy and her infectious enthusiasm are exactly what you get when you're with her.
And obviously the Queen, we've just got quickly mention when you did the Queen. I know you said that it was like 4 minutes or something you were given with the Queen. Is that correct?
I was given 5 and I shot her in 4 because I didn't want to be rude. But yeah, she was amazing. I mean, I have so much respect for the Queen as a human being. Like she's given up so much. She's, you know, when you're born to something and when you really can't be somebody that she can't abdicate, she can't give up her job, she can't have a day off. You know, she's somebody, whether you believe in the monarchy or not, you've got to respect the human being, the woman that has done that job, because she was born to that. And it's like, yes, of course, you're going to think of privilege, but also you're going to think of sacrifice, resilience, you know, devotion, all of those other things. So I try and see everyone that I photograph as a human being, and I tried to see her as a human being. And what I really wanted to get out of her was a laugh, because once I'd seen her laugh, I was a bit obsessed by making her smile.
Do you ever still get nervous at all in Neil's side, or not? Does that pass?
I think it's unhealthy not to be a bit nervous, because I think you need to have that the energy that nerves gives you kind of positivity, a kind of an acuteness. You actually become very acute and very sharp in how you're dealing with something. So I never take that for granted, because I think if you get up every day and you do something you love, you should be pinching yourself and reminding you how much you love it. And I think in the past I've probably been a bit grumpier and a bit moanier and a bit more negative and maybe a bit kind of, you know, pushy and believing my own hype. And I think I've grown out of that, and I really believe that I'm very privileged to do what I do, and so therefore I try and respect it, you know, the amount it should be respected. So I totally pinch myself when I get to meet someone like the Queen, or I get to be on the front, the front row of culture or history happening. That's something that is a real privilege, and I really don't take that for granted anymore.
Have you got someone on your, I know this is probably a question you get asked all the time, have you got someone on your sort of dream bucket list, like alive or dead, that you would
I don't actually, because I think that it's one of those things that I've never done and I've never really believed in doing. So I've kept it very low key, and I kind of put signals out into the world about people I want to shoot. But I think I'm so privileged anyway that I believe in serendipity, and I believe if you will it, if you wish it, that it generally comes to you.
I love that. I love that. So we've got some questions from some of our readers about some technique issues with photography, which we'd love to ask you about. So we've got number one here, which is if he's buying a new camera and can only buy one type, obviously, is it better to go with a traditional DSLR or mirrorless? From Susie in Cumbria.
It depends what level of photography you are, but I think a DSLR is always a good choice because you've just got so much more you can do with it. And I really believe that. I mean, mirrorless are good cameras. Fujifilm do some great mirrorless cameras, but for me, I love to be able to see what I'm photographing through the lens. So I would always recommend a DSLR.
Right, that makes very sense. We got another one here. Experimenting with portraits of my family. Is there a good lighting technique you would advise for shooting older people, 70 plus? Shooting
Yes.
photography, not euthanasia, I presume.
Of course. Photographing anybody with natural light is always useful to use windows. So have the person in front of a window, a soft window light, especially a south-facing window, is always going to give you a lovely soft light. Even if it's direct, you can take the person back a bit and you can use the bounds from the room. So I would always use windows as the light source.
And especially if they're older and they need a little bit of help.
If they're older, a soft light is always more complementary to skin.
Right, okay. And we've got one here. Is there any advantage to taking pictures in black and white mode rather than just changing it afterwards? I guess this is
absolutely none.
No.
There's no advantage at all. It's a technique which can make you think in black and white if you're trying to learn, but right. I shoot everything in color and change it later.
Right. How that whole sort of change to digital? Obviously, you've been through all the film into digital, and I mean, it's obviously a very different discipline now, isn't it? As well, like is. Oh, here we go. We've got a question here. Is there any types of pictures it's still better to use film than digital?
I think digital is something that I've embraced, but I don't think if you're starting photography, you shouldn't try and not shoot analog. I think analog is great for learning. It's great for being in control of the image you're taking. It's great so you don't have a lot of debate or have to show people it. So there are definitely techniques and uses for both analog or film, let's say, and digital. But for me, I love the immediacy of digital. So I really believe in it. But, whatever suits what you like shooting is how you should shoot. You shouldn't be, concerned about whether other people like it or not. It's about what suits you.
Yeah. And we got one here saying a lot of people do work on their image in post-production. How much work is acceptable to do on a computer after the fact? If you're going to say it's your photo, like how much is acceptable? It is a different discipline and such, isn't it?
I think it's as far as you morally feel like you're still the artist or the creative or the creator of the image. And most photographers do post-production and they do effects and they use lots of the techniques that smartphones have as filters. But I think it's good. Most professional photographers use it, and I think that as long as you morally feel like you haven't changed the image beyond what's acceptable to you personally, and definitely if you're not trying to, I don't know, change someone's face shape or size or give them abs, I think it's okay to use it. But I think again it's how long is a piece of string and what makes you feel comfortable. I tend to not use a lot.
Yeah, because it is that kind of sort of balance, isn't it? And then and I in terms of like when you sort of on the Great British Photography Challenge, obviously you had some great people. It was a great show because people were eliminated every week, and that was so nice because I kind of felt like we were it was all sort of in it together rather than the typical sort of elimination at the end of the week and all of that. So I really like that. But in terms of like that, do you think are you going to do another series? Number one, and number two, are you going to make them do more analog next time round in order to sort of?
Good question. I'd love to do another series. It really sits with the BBC as to whether it happens, and if you want to make it happen, you're listening to or watching this, then definitely write to the BBC and request it, because it's for me, there's nothing else like it on TV, and I think that it's an education. Analog, one would hope that we will bring it into the show if it happens again, but the reality for me was that photography, the kind of technical aspects of photography, weren't as important as the journey of how to make pictures. And making pictures is a lot more than the technology. The technology you can learn fairly quickly. So we might try and use it, because I think it's a good way of discussing this subject matter, and I think it should be discussed because it is something that's important, but it's not, you know, essential to me that everybody knows how to use both. It's essential that they understand how you put a shoot together, how you bring a cast, how you bring hair and makeup, how you bring, you know, even documentary photographers have to plan shoots. And I think that digital photography, especially smartphones, has made photography something that you think, some people think you can just point and shoot, and it's not. It's much more than that.
You still got to have the eye and know all the techniques and the lighting.
Absolutely.
And that skill level of like, and just on that point there that you said, I mean, obviously you, do you get frustrated with this kind of sort of like the generation of the taking the selfies and putting them on Instagram, and then they film them to, you know, no end? I know you've done the project.
I don't, I mean, I don't even feel like I'm frustrated. I actually feel like it's really dangerous, you know. I think that the fact that you can be 12 years old and filter yourself to look completely different, you can change every single thing about your face. I think that you know, that's so dangerous. So no, I mean, I think if I was to give people advice on selfies, it's like, don't take them. They're not really a representation of you.
Those are fantastic points. I totally agree on the selfies. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Rankin. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see the exhibition, which is in the Fujifilm House of Photography in Covent Garden. And also, if you can't get yourself to London, then there is the book performance, which is going to be available as well. So you can see the shots there. Thanks you so much again. Really.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you giving me the time.